Hey everyone, happy you tuned back in to Blatantly Honest with Makaila Nichols. I have an incredible guest on today for you. Her name is Anissa Neubauer, also known as Miss Broward County. She's competing in Miss Florida America to continue to impact adoption laws in the state of Florida and beyond. Ever since she was a little girl, she always knew she wanted to be a mom, but struggled to become one. But she was able to adopt a sweet baby girl who is now 11. Anissa and her husband knew that they needed to help others that might be in the same boat of wanting to start a family of their own. Together, they started a nonprofit called the Olive Branch Foundation to do just that. Welcome, Miss Broward County.
All right.
Hello. Well, thank you so much, Miss Broward County, for being here with me today. I'm so excited to talk with you and get to know your story.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and I appreciate you taking the time to learn more about my platform and why I'm here and why I'm competing in the Mrs. Florida America pageant.
I'm so excited to hear. So, Olive Branch Foundation, let's start from the very beginning. Tell me where it started, where you thought of it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go. It kind of goes back to my childhood.
Yeah.
I've been a very philanthropic person,
Okay.
and I had a dream when I was 14 years old. My mother used to tell me, "Stop confessing this," but I had this dream when I was 14 years old that I would not be able to have a biological child and that I would adopt. And so I think that God gave me that dream so that I could start processing it very young, because at the age of 14, I actually got bit by a tick in Kentucky, and I was infected with Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Well,
Wow.
at the time, if it's untreated, now this was a long time ago, at the time it was left untreated, 1 out of 2 people would die. So I was diagnosed about 3 days, they said, before I would have died. So I had some organ damage. And so
Oh my God.
I think that the dream
From a tick?
from a tick bite. Yeah. And it's endemic to Kentucky. So it just depends on what region you live in. But yeah, so I had that damage. I didn't, I'm a kid, I don't think anything about it. But then in my mid-20s, I started becoming very lethargic, losing a lot of weight. I was a pharmaceutical rep. I was calling on a physician who was an osteopathic doctor. So she was much more holistic. And she said, "I'm really concerned about you. I think you have Graves' disease," which is an autoimmune disorder. So my grandmother had it. So I thought I probably do. I need to go in and get tested. Come to find out, I actually had the reverse of Graves. I had Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder that attacks your thyroid and other organs. And I should have been gaining weight, but then I was losing it. So I had all these complications that they really didn't understand.
Oh my
And this
goodness.
was, so the only thing that really can help you is Synthroid and diet. So at that point, I didn't even still realize in my mid-20s what the true impact was. Well, the true impact was infertility.
Oh my God.
And even though they never diagnosed and said, "Okay, you're infertile," my doctor said, "We can get you pregnant. We can't keep you pregnant." And I'd already had 2 miscarriages, and the second miscarriage was in my second trimester. And after that, I said to my husband, I said, "I had this dream years ago when I was 14 years old, that I was supposed to adopt." And I said, and then I had another dream when I was 28 years old, after I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. I had a dream of this little Hispanic girl dancing in my front yard. And she had this beautiful black curly hair, and she was wearing a red dress, and she was wearing little black Mary Janes. Now, I'm not Hispanic. So it was interesting that I had this dream. So I dreamt about her, and I said, I have always had this dream that we're going to adopt, and I'm going to adopt, and I've always believed it. My desire to be a mother far outweighs my desire to become pregnant. I'd like to adopt. Literally quit my job as the director of sales training for a surgical device company. I traveled all over the United States training surgeons, quit my job, and 100% invested my time in researching adoption.
Wow.
Full-time job.
Just that split second decision. You're like, this is it. I need to do this. Wow.
I'm committed. And I realized not everybody has the time, the resources, or the capacity to do that kind of research. I went through every, I identified all the laws. I also identified just the geography and kind of the demographics of every state. My husband, ironically enough, that I'm now married to, is Hispanic. He doesn't even look, he's like this huge Hispanic guy.
Oh, he doesn't look Hispanic, but he is Hispanic.
Yes, but he is. And he speaks fluent Spanish, and is, spent half of his life in Mexico City. He's amazing. And I said, I really want to adopt a child that's half Hispanic and half like more of a Germanic background like mine. And half his father's from Vienna. So narrowed it down and found Kansas was extremely amenable to domestic adoption. When I mean amenable, I mean the laws were pro-adoptive parents. And there's so many things people don't realize about adoption, but like in certain states, the biological mother has up to 6 months to change her mind. That's not healthy for anybody. It's especially not healthy for her.
6 months?
6 months. Can you imagine the pressure your family and friends can put on you during that 6 months? You're already postpartum, you've got postpartum sometimes. Maybe you have postpartum depression. You're depressed because you just gave up part of your body, part of your soul. And now you've got the opportunity to think about it endlessly for 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, well, I can't do that. And then you've got the adoptive parents we're in love with that baby the second we know.
Of course.
Even the thought.
It's your baby, yeah.
It's already your baby. So that whole process, we narrowed down to Kansas. Kansas has a 2-day waiting period. Birth mother cannot change her mind after 2 days. Birth father, and Texas is really good too. Birth father, if he has not been paying expenses for the biological mom, the last 6 months of he cannot take legal rights for the baby. So it ended up being an incredible place to adopt. Everyone told us, I was 37 when we applied for the adoption. Everyone said, listen, it's going to take 2 to 3 years for you to get a baby, blah, blah, blah.
That long?
Yeah, you watched my video and I said, well, you don't know me very well.
Yep.
You certainly don't know, my determination and my focus. And I believe that preparation and timing is what's required to find success. We were picked the day we submitted our application for adoption, the day, by a birth mother.
Oh my gosh. You're like, yeah, 2 years, no, not going to work for me. 2, 3, same day. Incredible.
Same day got picked. And we had Olivia in our arms 6 weeks after that. Now, kind of have to back up that birth mother. And I'm very intuitive, and I think most women are. I think we just know.
Yes.
And especially, I think, intuitively, I already knew. And I had also had the dream that it was a Hispanic girl, right? The baby was a girl. Mm-hmm. Birth parents that picked us were having a boy. Now, I wanted a baby. Let's be honest. I was like, I didn't care, boy, girl. I didn't care if you were purple, green. I didn't care, honestly.
Like, I just want to be a mother.
I just want to be a mom. So they called us, and I said, this birth mother's going to change her mind. I said, I just feel it. 2 weeks later, the birth mother's parents got involved. She was a teenager, and she changed her mind, and her parents decided to raise the baby. Even though I knew in my heart that was going to happen, I can't explain to you the devastation I felt. Because even just 2 weeks in, I was committed.
Yeah.
I already bought all the babies.
What was that like?
Ready to go. Already named the baby. But so I cried and got it out of my system. And then I told the agency, yes, I'm going to be very clear on my ask. Because I know in my heart what God promised me. And I said, I can't explain to you my reasoning, but this is what I need. And this is what I want. And this is what I know he's going to deliver. So we need to wait for the perfect baby. And I said, I want the baby to be a female. I said, I want her to be half Latina and or Hispanic and half like Germanic, someplace in Europe. Mm. I want the birth mother to have already made her decision before they call. Like, I want the baby born. I can't handle this.
Can't put yourself through that again.
I want the baby born. I want the birth mother to have no drugs or alcohol in her system. And I want the baby to be healthy, no mental illness. And they said, Mrs. Neubauer, you're never getting a baby, right? And I said, oh, no.
Did that to you?
They told me that. I said, you're never going to get a baby. They said, your requirements are unrealistic. And I said, they're not requirements. They're what God promised me. So
Good for you.
I'm just telling you. And I said, I don't want to upset myself or upset you. So please only call me if this is what you get. About 3.5 weeks later, my husband and I we lived in Michigan at the time. We had a vacation kind of rental home that we were fixing up to try and use a second income. And I was there working on the house. I had driven to Panama City to drop off my husband, which was about an hour and a half away from Port St. Joe, where we were restoring this home. Dropped him off. As I'm coming back, there's no cell service out on Cape San Blas. I'm driving back. My phone starts blowing up. I missed a call from the day before, which was I'm like, my heart's racing. It's the adoption agency. And they call me, they said, Mrs. Neubauer, you need to call us. It's 5:30 a.m., okay? I don't care. I'm calling the social worker. I said, I'm so sorry.
Good morning.
I'm calling you. And she goes, Mrs. Neubauer, pull over. So I pull over. She goes, I don't know what kind of relationship you have with God. She goes, but he just delivered everything on your checklist. And they said, you need to come pick her up now.
Oh.
I was bawling.
Oh my God. Wow. I just got chills. Ooh.
It was crazy. I was just like, what? And I said, I couldn't even call my husband because he's on a 2-3 hour flight back to Michigan. I was just, and there's no one to call at 5 a.m. Well, I could, but I got myself together and I said, okay, this is happening. I've got to get back to the house in Cape San Blas. Now I've got an hour drive. I have three border collies that are at the house in Florida that I got to get together.
Figure that out.
But I put them in the van. I said, I can't leave them here in Florida because I don't know when I'll be back. I finished fixing up the house. We're still renovating. I finished it up in less than like 10 hours, got a real estate agent to list it, loaded up my car, loaded up 3 dogs, drove about 12 hours to Nashville. During that drive, 1 dog threw up on me while I'm driving.
Oh, can't catch a break.
I couldn't catch a break. We get to the hotel. The hotel's kind enough to let me bring the dogs in. It's a Marriott. They're really great about that. I bring in the dogs. The 1 dog that got sick jumps on the bed, has explosive diarrhea.
You're kidding.
No, I was just like, please God.
Why is this happening?
Oh, so I literally just stripped the whole bed. I called downstairs. I said, charge me for all the linens. Don't bother to change it. I only have 4 hours to sleep. My husband, I'd finally gotten a hold of him. He was super excited. He was in Michigan going and buying baby clothes, trying to get ready. So he got flights ready to go to Kansas. So he said, just get back. This is when the flights leave. I get back. It just gets better and better. I get back. He has a burning fever. He's sick.
Oh, what? See, God was like, you know what? I'm going to give this to you, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, but he told me, he goes, I'm going to give you 9 months of pregnancy in 24 hours. Like all the pain, you're going to get it. And I get home and he's like, I'm burning up. I've got a fever. I'm like, well, you can't go. So I go by
myself. See our baby like this.
No, well, I can't have him get the baby sick. Because you're quarantined when you adopt a baby. I use the word quarantine now because that seems to be like
relatable.
Right, relatable, totally relatable, perfect. When you go to adopt outside of the state, you get the baby, but you have to stay in a hotel in that city for 10 days. You can't just leave.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Yes, so I get to Kansas and I fly from Detroit to Kansas City. Then I get in a car then I have to stay the night. Then I get in a car and drive 3 hours to Wichita. It's a monsoon, by the way. Again, I'm going through labor now. God's like, I'm going to give you 3 hours of monsoon labor.
Just when he thought it was over, it's not.
It's not. So then I get there and I meet the social worker in the parking lot of the pediatrician's office. And this is how I gave birth. I walk across the parking lot. I see this woman walking across the parking lot towards me, carrying a baby car seat. She hands me Olivia and goes, here you go, mommy, here's your baby. That's it. And I just look at her, I'm like, I'm a mom. I became a mom overnight and now we have no furniture because we sent all the other furniture back because I was so depressed. The only clothes I have for her are what my husband quickly bought from, wherever. And I go to we do the exam. The doctor says to me, this is the healthiest baby I've ever examined. And he does all the adoptions for this agency. Fast forward, we get to the agency and they're like, oh yeah, and I failed to mention this. Earlier, they had told me there's a possibility she could have cystic fibrosis. Her mother's a carrier. Well, I had done research with a surgeon in Dallas when I was in my surgical device career. And we had worked with a 19-year-old female patient who has cystic fibrosis. And I went through the entire clinical trial with her and unfortunately got to also experience her death with her. And I knew that cystic fibrosis is a death sentence. And you don't know how long, but the average life expectancy is no greater than early 30s. And when they told me that, I So when we got there, they said, we don't have the test results back. What do you want to do? Do you want to wait to finish up the adoption papers until you get the results? And I said, absolutely not. She's mine. This is my baby. I don't care. I'm going to raise her as long as, and love her as long as God gives me the chance to do that. And they said, it's going to be 2 weeks, Mrs. Neubauer, you're not going to know. I said, I will deal with it. While I'm standing there with her, this is really how, 11 years ago, fax machines were still in vogue.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what those look like.
Exactly. My daughter's like, what's a fax machine? Well, you hear this, and then a fax is coming through, and they're like, hang tight. This is a fax from, the Topeka hospital where Olivia was born. And it comes through, and they're like, okay, we've got the results. Now, I had lost and I'm not exaggerating, I had lost 10 pounds in 48 hours.
Sure.
Pure stress. I haven't eaten, I haven't slept. I'm holding her, just in awe of her. They come in, we've got the results, and I'm shaking.
I'm sure. Sweating, shaking.
I've had so many life-changing experiences in 48 hours. Please God, I'm praying.
Traumatized.
Very traumatized. And they come in and they're reading it to me, and they go, oh, she tested negative.
Oh, thank God.
I passed out. And they caught Olivia as I'm hitting the side of the couch. I was so overwhelmed from exhaustion and relief. And I just can tell you, it was just I think I had every emotion any pregnant mother could have ever had in a 9 months period. And in the end.
In that short.
Yes. And it was the most beautiful moment. I remember going to my hotel, and other things happened, of course, that were crazy before I even get to my hotel. But to kind of give you some perspective, when you're pregnant, you've got that 9 months to bond with that baby, right? One of my friends suggested, she said, okay, you just need to sleep when she sleeps, eat when she eats, lie with her on your chest, let her feel your heartbeat. And so I basically just was on her schedule. My husband couldn't get there for 5 days, which at first I was really upset about,
Of course.
This is awesome. I get my alone bonding time.
With your baby.
My husband has 2 biological children. And he told me, he said, I think it's different for men. Even when a woman's pregnant, I don't know that they really bond until that baby's born. He walked in that hotel room and looked at her. I actually captured it. He turned around and looked at me, and I took a quick photo. I have never seen love in his face like I saw that moment. And he looked at me and goes, oh my God, I love her.
Wow.
And those 2 are thick as thieves. They are thick as thieves.
So you're like, I had those 5 days. Those are my 5 days. Dang it. And
yes. And I never got him back.
Oh, dang. Well.
So so really that entire story that I'm telling you, I tell you because it was such an emotional, spiritual, humanizing experience that I wanted to help other people have a successful experience. You're going to go through hell and back when you adopt. You're just going to, but pregnant women go through that. They have all kinds of emotions, right? I wanted to remove barriers. I wanted to help people because a lot of the barrier for most people when it comes to adoption is financial. I mean, this was 11 years ago. The price tag was $35,000. And you wire the money before you get the baby. It feels transactional.
Wow.
That was disheartening. I mean, obviously you're in euphoria. You just don't care. But I know families that are mortgaging their house to adopt. They're taking out tons of loans. They're leveraging their credit cards. I'm fighting to change the laws on why is it so expensive to adopt? Now that was through private. If you go through the state, it's relatively free. It just depends, like we've helped families pay their legal fees that weren't covered. But if you go through the state, it's about $15,000. Well, I should say, if you do private and don't go through an agency, agencies are really expensive. If you just use an attorney, it's around 15, but you have to find the birth mother, which is a whole nother story. If you go
I can't imagine how difficult that is. Where would you begin?
You become almost like an investigator yourself. And then you got to do background checks on everyone. It's a little bit, it could be very difficult unless you have a connection with a healthcare provider or a person in your family that just is connected in fostering and social work. But if you go through the foster care program in the state, then it's free for the adoption. Now we try and help those families. Sometimes there's things that they can't cover. Like there was one family that we helped. It was a military family. didn't really have any expenses other than there was a little bit of personal expense on their side of the attorney fees, not the child side, but they still had to pay their attorney fees. It's like $2,500. But for a military family, when the wife is home with 4 kids and the husband's the only one, and he's, he's not an officer, $2,500 is
a lot.
Aging. So the Olive Branch paid for their legal fees. And knowing that, I think for me, knowing that my daughter, my birth mother, I call her my angel, she did not want to give up Olivia. She was in prison. And if she didn't place her for adoption, the state was going to take her. And then she would have no control where she went. You don't have to say.
Yeah.
So she picked us while she was giving birth. And fortunately for us, she had placed another child with this agency. So she called this agency and said, listen, I was going to keep her, but I can't. She had no family that could keep her, and I don't want to do this, but I have to. And that's a whole other story for another day. But she was the angel God put in our life. She changed our life. So we wanted to do something to honor her sacrifice, because I think a lot of people don't see it that way. They don't get it, that that woman who's placing her baby for adoption, she had a choice. She could have had an abortion. She could have let the state take her. Mm-hmm. She did something that to me is the bravest thing I've ever experienced or witnessed in my life.
She wanted to give her baby a chance.
She did. And if you follow me on Facebook, I talk about my story off and on, but fast forward to 9 years later, we did our very first inaugural event called the Giving Tree Gala. I hadn't heard from her birth mother in years. I tried to reach out. She'd been in and out of situations. Life is challenging. But we did this gala. We did this video that you saw, and we published that video on YouTube, and she saw it. And she reached out, and I put her on a FaceTime with Olivia. And my daughter I'm going to start crying, but.
I'm going to start crying. You start crying.
My daughter got up in front of everybody at this Giving Tree Gala, and she said, I love my birth mother, and I'm so thankful that she gave me to my mom and dad. She said, if you're thinking about adoption, she said, stop thinking about it and just do it. And then she goes, look at me. I'm amazing. And she said, and I'm super happy. And so whenever Audra, her birth mother, reached out, and we've got an open conversation. We're on Facebook together. She reached out, and I said, Olivia's at an age now, she really wants to see your face. And Audra had an older daughter, and we did a FaceTime with them. And when we were done, Olivia ran across the room, jumped on me, and started kissing me all over my face. And she said, thank you, thank you, thank you. She goes, I just needed to see her face. I just needed to hear her voice. She goes, I'm good now. She said, I know she loves me. She goes, I know she didn't just give me away. And she said, she goes, I can't tell you, Mom. She goes, I can't explain what I'm feeling right now. And she goes, I'm feeling happiness. And I think that what children need is transparency. I think that I believe my daughter will never lack confidence or feel abandoned because she's never been lied to. The story's so open, and she's been a part of the process. And when we started the foundation, Olivia is on the front of everything we do, and she is our spokesperson. And she said, she goes, I feel a purpose. She even did a presentation that year after that happened. The school, when she started the next year of school, I think it was 4th grade, I can't remember, 3rd or 4th grade. And they said, tell us about yourself. She grabbed my Olive Branch Foundation bag and filled it full of photos of her birth mother and her biological siblings, pictures of my family, her cousins, her brother and sister from my husband's first marriage. And she brought it in. She goes, and she put all these pictures out. And she goes, this is adoption. This is my family. And the teacher called me. She goes, I was crying in the background.
Out of the mouth of babes, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So God bless her.
She's such an advocate. And then, so when I did the pageant in Kentucky, it was really because I realized my husband and I were the sole funders of this foundation. We weren't asking for money from anyone. We were just taking part of the money from our business and our income and just doing it.
That's hard.
It was hard, but I said the hardest part isn't the money, because that's easy to give money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hard part is evoking change, instilling desire in others, inspiring others to make change. So it was important to me to reach others, and through the pageant, I had a larger voice. I was third runner up in my first pageant. I was really, honestly, I mean, everyone wants to win, but I felt super blessed that I did that well. And I ended up, several people thought I won because I ended up on the news. I ended up on a talk show. I ended up in magazines about the community because I was so passionate about my platform. And it wasn't something I just decided to do for the pageant. Doing it for 11 years. Right. And it ended up getting me connected with the government of Kentucky. And I worked with at the time, Governor Bevin's wife, who they adopted several children themselves. We ended up working to change the laws for children in foster care. And we did a lot of good things. And I just want to do that in Florida now. I want to take that formula that I know works and help kids.
Here. So with the Florida laws, what's different about Florida versus Kentucky when it comes to adoption?
Well, it's very similar, but the biggest difference in Florida from Kentucky is just the size of the issue. So in Kentucky's much smaller population. I think there's a different set of problems. In Kentucky, the problems are more based on education and on the drug situation there. And there's a huge opioid problem and a meth problem. Here, there's a lot of sex trafficking, and there is a lot of, there is definitely a language barrier in some parts of Florida. So there is some poverty, but I think that the issues are different, but they're ultimately the same. You still have all these children that are displaced, and the likelihood of a child being adopted once they reach around 10, it drastically drops. And you think, we all forget, we think, okay, well, I'm gonna go get this cute child in foster care that's 2 or 3. But
Little
then,
baby.
Yeah, I mean, easy enough, right? But when you do the research and you find out the abuse they've endured, it becomes daunting. Because we actually went through the whole process to adopt another child when Olivia was 2, and we were gonna do it through the foster system. And this is a whole nother show, but there's things that need to be addressed in our foster systems. In Florida, I know they're the same because I actually spoke to someone that works for the district attorney in Miami, and the issues are similar. But ultimately, I think that the biggest challenge here in Florida, from what I'm hearing, is the sex trafficking and these children being sold into slavery.
Isn't it? When I hear that, and whether I'm naive but it's so hard to picture, and it's hard to wrap your head around all these things that go on, because you look outside and that's not something you see all the time, and it's devastating. And the fact that it goes on like this, and especially I never thought about it in that kind of system, the kids.
Well, and let's be real. We live in a bubble. This is not the reality. Like, where we all live is not mainstream USA. When we went through our adoption and we built a connection, a relationship with our birth mother, the way she thinks and her life is very different than anything I would have ever thought was acceptable or normal. And when you don't have an education and you don't have, that's the quickest thing, is I think education is key. But when you don't have some of those things that maybe you and I were given from day one, maybe just a stable parent, even just one stable parent, but 2 stable parents, even, it's even stronger. And it doesn't, and I also am very open-minded on adoption. Like, I don't care if you're a single mom, a homosexual couple, a heterosexual couple. That to me doesn't matter. What matters to me is, are you a loving, strong, stable unit that can love this child? Because these children that are being taken out of their home, they're taken out of their home for a reason. And it's because they're in danger.
And with that being said, not to cut you off, I noticed something in the video that you shared with me, and I just didn't know this was a thing either. And you mentioned, and one of your guests on there mentioned that kids can be born addicted to drugs.
Yes.
How is that something you're informed of prior? What does that look like?
Well, and that was something we thought about when we adopted Olivia. With the way it looks at, like, so the Snuggle Squad is an organization in Louisville where these pre-med students come in and they literally hold these babies that are born addicted to drugs. And you would be shocked at the numbers of children who are addicted to drugs. Because if a birth mother comes in and after the, first trimester, and even in the first trimester, clinical studies vary, but if you're using drugs, well, your baby's using drugs, clearly. I mean, they're eating what you're eating and they're ingesting what you're ingesting. Well, small doses is all it takes for a child to become addicted. So when they're born, there are children that live in the hospital for months, some years. There was a child at the time when I did this first inaugural event, 2 years old. He was so addicted to drugs, he was blind, he was deaf, and he couldn't speak. And this kills me, but these people from Snuggle Squad would just hold him. And they had to feed him, and he couldn't communicate. And you think that child was born into a prison. Who's going to adopt this child? It's a lifetime. It's a commitment that people can make.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And these children had no control over it. And so what's happened in a lot of states is, yes, we want to give everyone a chance to rehabilitate, give birth to this child that's addicted to drugs. And you saw in the video the story from the nurse, Tonda, and she talks about adopting who were addicted to drugs and what the birth mother had done with the child, and leaving the child in a bar overnight in the middle of winter. I mean, you can't fathom it. That these birth mothers are allowed to leave with these babies is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and especially for the child who has no say, no anything, and they're just there, and they're waiting and wishing, and they need homes like yours, and it gives me chills just thinking about it because it breaks my heart, and that's why you're. Go ahead.
You know what's sad though is something else, because one of my really good friends is an ICU nurse. And another sad part that a lot of times we forget about is that birth mother typically is a child herself. And she was a victim of abuse, or she was a foster child. She didn't have a perfect life, I can guarantee, or she, something happened in her life
along the way.
And so what's really hard is that there's got to be love and nurturing and care for that woman as well. And it's a very complicated dynamic that can't be fixed immediately or overnight or maybe ever. But, like our birth mother, I love her. And I pray for her, because the end goal is you want everyone to find peace and happiness, but you can't sacrifice the child's life for the life of the adult, because we all get to an age where we are old enough to make a decision whether we want help or not.
To be responsible for our own actions.
Right.
Well, it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. And your daughter, who's 11 years old now, that's amazing. 11. Wow. She must just be loving it. Maybe not being inside so much right now, but.
No, honestly, I've never seen her happier. She told me, she said, Mom, she said, I know COVID, it's a horrible thing. And if you've been impacted in any way negatively, this is serious. And I take it very seriously, and it's horrible. But I also have to look at the bright side of everything, because I've been on the dark side of plenty of things. The bright side of this is, imagine the opportunity we are all given right now to really build family. We're living in the 50s, really. Right now, yeah. I mean, I have never spent this kind of quality time with my daughter and my husband. And I am so thankful. My husband and I were talking about this morning. We are consultants. We travel pretty much 3 days a week normally. We can't right now. And my husband said to me, he woke up this morning, he goes, I have to be honest, I hope this doesn't come across, insensitive to everyone, because we're not trying to be insensitive, because I know some people, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to them. If you've lost a loved one, there's no bright side to this. But if you're blessed to still be healthy and in your home with your family, the bright side is that you're finally getting the blinders off and seeing how blessed you are. And that
so true.
These things that are consuming our minds and time are not important they're not as important as we thought they were.
No, families first. And even, I'm an only child, and being with my parents, I'm like, yes, you're driving me crazy. And yes, I really want to go do something, but I'm like, wow, like we're here, we're healthy, we're with each other. And it's the greatest gift in this horrible time.
Yeah, and you don't have the pressure of like for every like you've got a pressure. I got to get out. I got to be seen. I got to do this. I've got to make impact. And that kind of pressure has been removed because it isn't just Florida. It isn't just the United States. It's the world. I've never felt more connected to humanity than I do today. I feel calmer. I feel more loving. I feel more inclined I'm more patient for sure, but I see things in a way that very few generations will ever have the opportunity to truly see.
I agree. So is there anything else that you want to talk about or mention? You've covered so much important stuff, and I know everyone's going to take a lot from it, especially those who are looking to adopt, or maybe they've been adopted themselves and, look up to organizations such as yours.
Well, I want to make sure everyone knows our organization is all about helping others. So if you're an organization that wants me to speak on your behalf, or you want me to come to an event, or I can help you fundraise, I'm all in. We don't collect money just for our foundation. We're really more about helping the bigger foundations and the local foundations here in our community thrive. So we go out, we do fundraisers for other people. Like our Christmas party was a fundraiser, for a local foster care organization here, and right outside here in Broward County. So I would like to encourage people, if I can help you be a voice, to extend your voice, I'm there for you. The other thing I really want to say is, the very first time I ever did a pageant was 2 years ago, and I got a lot of mixed reviews from people. Some of my friends were unbelievably supportive, and I actually lost a lot of friends because I think some people don't truly understand pageantry. They see it as a beauty pageant, and to me, it's not a physical beauty thing. It's a inner beauty. The women that I have interacted with in the pageantry system have been some of the most inspirational, intelligent, kind, nurturing, loving, generous people I've ever met in my life. And I did a video 2 years ago to talk about that. I did it with another director of another pageant system. And we talked about how, the women that are doing this, they're investing a lot of their life and energy towards a goal, a platform, a passion. It's not about, they're not getting on stage to be criticized. No one wants to get on stage and have everyone pick you apart.
To rip you apart. You're like, I'm not doing it for that.
Right. They rip you apart. It's like, you think it was exciting for me at age 47 to get in a bathing suit and get on stage with
seriously
a whole bunch of, honestly, 20 and 30-year-olds? I was nervous. I was shaking.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. And I knew I was going to get judged, but I did it because I knew it was a way to get exposure for the need for children they're really our most precious asset, our most precious resource, our children. They're our future. And if we can't recognize that, then we're doomed to failure. But I think what we need to recognize is, I would say majority of the women I have met in pageantry system, people should be excited for them, supportive of them, because they're evoking change. They're putting themselves out there for the good of something greater. And I are all of them. And I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I'd got involved sooner. I had no idea the amazing women I would meet. And even men. I mean, I've met some amazing men, some hairstylists, and makeup
great
artists.
Great people all around.
Awesome. I mean, they're just beautiful inside and out. And I had to say that because I need people to understand, very few people go into pageant system because if you want to be beautiful and you just want people to look at you, there's plenty of other things you can do.
Amen to that. All right, Miss Broward County. Well, I'm going to let you take us out of this episode. So whenever you're ready.
I just want to end by saying, be bold, be you, and be blatantly honest. And one last thing, don't ever apologize for doing something you believe in.